Is it recording?
Yes, it should be.
Hell yeah. Happy birthday, Archie.
Happy birthday to Archie. It's our boy's birthday today. He's 8 years old.
Yeah. He's currently eating the tail of a pig that we got him, but he's got a big, fluffy, everyone be excited. He's got so many wonderful gifts. He's going to be enjoying his day. This is a blessed day. Really, really.
Truly, it is a blessed day.
Truly, it is a blessed day. We have a mailbag episode. Should we get to it?
Yeah, let's get to it.
I mean, people are entitled to their sexual proclivities. Let there be 1,000 blossoms bloom. But I ain't spending any time on it. But I ain't spending any time on it. But I ain't spending any time on it. Let there be 1,000 blossoms bloom. But I ain't spending any time on it.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, Yanni.
And hello, everyone, on Not a Wednesday. We're here on a Sunday.
Surprise, hi.
And they're going to hear it the day we record this as well.
Which is kind of nutty.
Unless
Hello.
they, don't listen for a few days, and we'll forgive you.
In which case, that's fine, I guess. Listen on whatever day of your choosing.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some things that we've got from our listeners, from our wonderful Patreon subscribers. So if you're interested in getting onto the mailbag, asking us questions, they can be about, politics in Australia. I suppose they could also just be about our lives. It's perhaps a bit odd, but we can tell you.
Hey, free-flowing. Just, whatever question you've got on your mind, maybe it's a question about maths.
Maybe it is maths.
I'll leave it to Yanni to answer that, but I could give you a fun answer.
Yeah, I'd be really happy to talk about maths, but we've got some wonderful questions from our patrons. I figured we'd just go in order. So this first one is from Amanda. Hello, Amanda. Thank you very much for writing in.
Hi, Amanda.
Amanda does such amazing baked goods. You need to have them. But this one's from Amanda. Hey, lovelies. Enjoying the show. It's like going from a... Sorry, everyone. Also, you can hear Archie... Let me just do that. I am going to cut that bit. You can probably hear Archie chomping in the background as well. That's his pig thing. So, yeah, from Amanda. Hey, lovelies. Enjoying the show. It's like going for a walk with friends when I'm listening. Wargill says hello to Archie. In real life, he'd probably be too scared.
Aww.
In the interest of understanding those who are so opposite in views, it would be interesting to learn a bit more about Pauline Hanson and how she came to believe her shit. It might be too harrowing a deep dive, though. I'd also love a Bob Brown episode, but don't want to have a hero tarnished too badly, but maybe he's a goodie. I do love chatting with some of the oldies who were back at the protests in the day. Take care. Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks, Amanda. And would you believe it? We actually do have a Pauline Hanson episode in the works.
Yeah.
I do have, in fact, right in front of me in my hot little hands, I have Pauline Hanson's Untamed and Unashamed, the autobiography, which is crazy.
It's wild to have that in our house.
And
she's just staring at us.
I've got it right here. I've got her photo on the front. She's got a classic short haircut. She's got a red lip going on.
And it's like by her. I imagine there's a ghostwriter of some sort, but it's not about her. It's from her.
Yes, yeah. This is very much from her.
What year, by the way, was this one out?
So this was, let me open this up and find out for you. God,
who's it dedicated to? Is it dedicated to the Australian people?
It's copyrighted for 2007. First published 2007.
Nice.
So yeah.
So this came out alongside Kevin 07. And yeah, does she thank the Australian people?
Let me see. So she's thanks people who support her. Blah 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 blah. Parents, sister, children. My very dear closest friends.
Well, that's just...
Yeah, dedicates her book to all of them. This is people she actually knows, I suppose.
Well, she should have dedicated it to the Australian people, to white Australians. To show her support. Anyway,
show her support.
Karen, what are you going to show us today?
So I've just got a little paragraph. We picked a random page, and I think this is a really fun kind of little taster for Pauline Hanson. So I just want to read something to you. If you all don't mind, I'd love to just read you a little something.
Story time with Karen.
Here we go. Just when I thought I couldn't possibly feel any more degraded, I was asked to stand in front of a blank wall in the reception area and hold a placard at chest height. For just one moment, I wanted to escape reality. I wanted to block it out. This is not really happening to me. The ordeal of being photographed was only part of the humiliating process. I was then fingerprinted. On Thursday, 21 August 2003, I became prisoner C70079 at Brisbane Women's Correctional Centre.
Pauline Hanson, what did she go for? I don't remember going to prison. What did she go to prison for?
I think she went to prison for fraud, potentially.
Oh, like campaign finance
I
misuse
have
and shit.
not a single clue, which is why I've got the book, and I'm very
Yes.
excited to read it.
Yeah, but look, what do we got to give to Pauline Hanson? No one has ever done a political stunt with such unanimous condemnation from all members of the polity. You remember that time she wore the burqa in Parliament?
Yeah.
And she like whipped it off dramatically. And I think it was George Brandis, who's like a ghoul.
Yeah.
And he was like, come on, this is too much.
I know, like, that's the thing, right? Like, she's always down to do a stunt. Like, if she was, like, less of how she
Everything.
is,
Yeah.
I'd be like, damn, that's so cunty. She's always ready to just, like, do a trick, do a stunt.
She's all ready to do a trick.
She's down to do it, you know? Like, she's
Oh
just
my
like, this is a
God.
great idea. Like, I appreciate that she doesn't think twice when she
No.
has an idea. She's
Yeah.
like, perfect, done, let's go.
I think honestly her body's starting to fail her. Like I think her mind is still, and I'm not saying Pauline Hanson is a smart. My favorite moment on Australian TV, I remember watching a documentary that talked about Pauline Hanson for a while. It might have been the Pauline Hanson doco, which I should remember why she got arrested. And they're talking about her first speech in Parliament, and it was this whole thing because it was like the first time someone was really racist since like the 80s or whatever. In Parliament, and but it's also like, you know, quite a well-written speech apparently, and it's going from journalist to journalist to journalist being like, that speech set the tone, Pauline announced herself, and then Marshall Langton, or Langston, I always forget if it's Langton or Langston, but Marshall Langton, who I do love whenever I see her on TV, I don't know her, but the music all stops and she's like, she didn't, you don't think she actually wrote that, did you? The woman's a half-wit.
Fuck.
It's my favorite Australian TV moment ever.
Iconic.
Like, what a fucking cat. But I think she's lost it a little. Like, she's getting this Gina money, but she's lost it.
You know, and I think she's also, like, in recent years had to mature a lot, being that the party, like, the Nationals, like, One Nation and stuff, like, they have gotten a lot more popular and a lot more, like, in the forefront of Australian politics, that I think
Yeah.
there has to be some sort of, like, smooth chilling
Well-
of some of the most outrageous stuff. Because when you're a small party, you can fucking do anything because all you need is attention.
Yeah.
Once you've got the attention, you need to keep it. Like,
You
you
need
need
to
to
keep the
hold on
attention.
to people's interest, and you can't necessarily do that with polarizing stunts.
No, and she's trying to be, like, nationally known. She's not just, like, an Ipswich person anymore, or whatever she
know?
represents. And, like, I feel like she's got every race that she's degraded publicly. She's also got someone from that race to sign up for One Nation, because someone will always take the bag.
I mean, she's always like, let's not beat around the bush. She is always at the forefront of racism.
She
you know?
is.
She
No,
sets the tone. She's
she
like, this
does.
is the one, this is the group, this is the demographic.
Yeah.
All over.
Yeah, she's in some ways descriptive of Australia, and in some ways prescriptive of Australia.
A racist trendsetter.
A racist trendsetter, but also a racist bandwagoner. I'm excited for the episode about Pauline when we get to that. It'll probably be a while. You know, she might not be in Parliament anymore when we get to it.
Oh, God.
Because as we've all heard, there's an election, and we'll be doing some election chat over on the
Yay,
Patreon,
election.
over on the Should'n'ta Said That feed.
Hweh-haw.
But yeah, I'm excited to hear more about Pauline. On the topic of Bob Brown, so maybe we'll do an episode. From my perspective, this is like, Bob Brown has come up a little bit in my research on like Adam Bent and stuff, and he's certainly got a very interesting story. The fact that he was the doctor who received Jimi Hendrix's dead body is kind of crazy.
Is insane.
Like, that's just a strange connection, isn't it? But
I think he's also the first, like, openly gay member of parliament, like, in Australia. Like, he's just, like, the first
he
dude
could be
who
the
was
first
just, like,
one anywhere. Like, it's some crazy shit.
you know?
Like, I don't know what it is. But he's not in Parliament anymore, so that'd be the only reason I'd be hesitating to do the episode. Is like, well, you know, is what is there to say that hasn't already been said in the career retrospectives of the man and such?
Yep.
But it'll be a fun. So maybe for like Christmas or something, we can do. A
Oh,
nice,
Merry Christmas. It's Bob Brown.
Yeah, like I know.
If you're good on Christmas, Bob Brown will come and visit you and give you a weird turn of phrase.
We wish you a merry Bob Brown. We
Wish you a merry Bob Brown. We wish you a merry Bob Brown and a happy Bob Brown.
With
Good Bob Brown we bring.
yeah, we'll do that. But thank you very much, Amanda, for the question, and say hello to Woggle for us. Archie obviously would say hello. He's finished his pigtail. This next one is from Clive Palmer. It's not. It's from one of our patrons who has asked to be depicted by the name Clive Palmer. They don't. No hellos, no love the show. We have to assume they don't think we're doing good enough.
Straight to business.
Straight to business. Nah. I don't know if it's been done, but what about a leftist deep dive of Ned Kelly? You can, connect it to how it relates today. Also, could you do an episode about how Ned Kelly's seen as a terrorist, but some might be more forgiving because of his race? You talk about the double standard, and current terrorism ideas based on 9/11, the geographical distance from genocide that isn't as true as we think, or maybe even the anti-establishment themes of his stories and how that's muffled into Australian propaganda of propaganda culture over time, how UAP voters, so that's Clive Palmer's party, have the bucket armor posters in their shed. Does it check out? Does that make sense, or is it ironic? Of course, more research needs to be done. I don't remember much of what I learned about him in school, and I'm not really up to date on current sentiments around home. Thanks for listening to my ramble.
Hell yeah. Thanks, Clive.
Yeah, thank you, Clive Palmer, for that one. And that is definitely an interesting episode that would be a lot to do, because when we got that question, I was like, okay, let me have a look into this. And we went to the library not long after, and I'm like, yeah, I'll pick up a book on Ned Kelly. And there were so many, right? And so I go to Ned Kelly's Wikipedia. I'm like, all right, let me, I don't really know a great deal about Ned Kelly. And it turns out he's the Australian with the most biographies.
Oh, shit, really?
Yeah.
That actually kind of doesn't surprise me. Ned Kelly is a piece of Australiana and, Australian legend and folklore that I don't think we've got really that much else.
No, Ned Kelly is the only, character of Australia. And when we say Australian, we mean, this Australia, not, this land. But Australian folklore. Is there another one, really? Because I don't think if you're...
Not like an individual, I don't think.
If there's video of you,
The
you
Jolly
can't...
Swag Man,
Yeah, I guess the Jolly Swag Man from Waltzing Matilda. But, because the other person I'd say is Steve Irwin, but if there's video of you, you're not in folklore.
No, no.
Ned Kelly gets by because there's just a couple pictures of him.
Yeah, and I actually kind of... From what I remember of, primary school learning about Ned Kelly, fucking love the story of Ned Kelly.
It is...
Can you imagine that this fucking guy just built he's Tony Stark coded. He built a suit of armor out in the middle of nowhere and then just went around shooting and shit.
Yeah,
that's actually nuts.
So what do you remember? Tell us what your recollection of the Ned Kelly story is.
Okay, recollection of the Ned Kelly story. He and his family / friends, lived, Robin Hood coded, him and a band of merry men were living out in the fucking woods, the bush.
Yeah.
And they were like, we love doing crimes, because we don't have any money or any way to make a living, so we're going to do crimes. And so they would go into town and do crimes, and they were like, guns, we can die from those. And Ned was like, I've got a great idea. And he just, fashions a suit of fucking armor out of, metal.
Yeah, just sheet metal and stuff.
Just sheet metal.
Yeah.
And just fucking puts it on and shit. And then, because guns aren't the same back then as they are now, the bullets wouldn't, go through because they don't have the force.
But they did hit the legs, which he didn't put armor on.
Very well, because he's a thief, you see, probably. A criminal man, so he's got to be sneaky. Can you imagine, someone in a full suit of armor, trying to creep up on you?
But, I mean...
a helmet and a chest plate, I guess that's easier.
You could at least have, a sheet of metal that you put in front of you, and
Too
you,
much
pick
to
it
bring.
up and run ahead of you and put it down. Just, carrying it around like a prop. It's got, grass painted on it or something.
And then eventually he gets captured, and they go to execute him, and he says the famous, "Such is life," quote.
At some point he says such is life, I think.
And then he dies. And then people just get such is life put on the back of their utes or whatever.
Yeah, or just the picture of him with the guns or whatever.
Yeah. And I think, and he's Irish, I think, of Irish extraction.
Yes.
And yeah, that's kind of what I remember of Ned Kelly. I remember going to, I think it was the National Gallery of Australia in primary school or early high school. And there's a portrait of Ned Kelly there that's it's kind of abstract.
The famous one?
Yeah. It's kind of, it's the weird abstract one where it's he's on a field perhaps.
Oh, and it's
kind of
really
boxy
yellow
and stuff.
Yeah, I actually know. I know the one you mean.
Yeah.
I don't know who the... I
don't
guess
know
it's
who the
probably just
artist
called
is.
Ned Kelly, so
Probably,
I wouldn't know.
yeah.
But yeah, I know the one you mean. That's a really evocative painting. This is a great. We're going to talk a little bit more about things that not only. So that was us talking about things that we could see if we were there. We're now going to talk about things that we can't see, but you can't. Here's a picture of young Ned Kelly.
Damn.
Isn't that weird when he doesn't have this big beard?
Yeah, like he's got, let me tell you this, he's got prominent cheekbones and quite a square jaw, but it is a narrow square jaw.
He looks kind of like Abraham Lincoln.
He does a little bit, yeah, he does a little bit.
And he's like 16 in that picture, or like 17.
You know what?
Do you know-
That doesn't really surprise me. He kind of weirdly looks like just, apart from the fact of how serious he looks, he does look like an Australian, like, kid I could see today.
Yeah, he absolutely looks like...
Like, I expect him to be on a footy team and his name is probably, like, Jackson or something.
Yeah, or he's, like, studying finance at uni or something.
You know?
Here's something that might surprise you. How old was Ned Kelly when he died?
30.
25.
Fuck off.
25.
That's insane.
A fucking child. And yeah, he was Irish. There, I read a couple of just articles in the Wikipedia page, and I just wanted to grab some interesting things that I didn't remember. So, the first mention of Ned Kelly is in a like a crime thing to police. A crime report.
A crime report, you say?
Crime, and a crime had been done on a dude named Ah Fook.
Oh no.
Yeah, so it's like he's like a Chinese dude. His last name is Ah. His first name is Fook, but his family name is Ah, rather. But yeah, his name is Ah Fook. And him and Ned Kelly have like a fight, and it's just like his word against Ned Kelly's brother's word.
Wow, I wonder who came out on top in that situation.
Because both of them allege that the other one did something that would lead to you wanting to fight that person. So I don't know.
Damn.
Like, it's whatever. And he was Irish. I read an article by someone making the contention that Ned Kelly saw himself more as an Irishman than an Australian, really. I don't know. I'm going to have to read some stuff, clearly. But that's an interesting thing to think about. Like, he sees himself as an Irishman. There's a lot of Irish people in the story, like the judge who put him in prison or whatever, or put him to execution or whatever, was Irish. Obviously, him and the whole gang and a bunch of people he knows are Irish. A lot of the police officers who get him are Irish.
And I think you have to think about it as well in terms of like the context of being sent to Australia or going to Australia as an opportunity for people who were generally like, you know, lower class in the UK, in England, and predominantly a lot of those people are going to be Irish people who leave Ireland.
Archie.
Go to...
I don't want to leave Ireland.
Okay, we don't have to, bud.
Don't worry about it.
Go to England to work and, you know, are like I think my mum's grandmother, great-grandmother? Anyway, one of the women on my maternal side, an Irish woman who, as a teenager, went to England to work in, like, a big fancy mansion house as, like, a cleaner or something.
Yeah,
you know?
I'd want to wear a suit of armor and shoot the English people whose house I have to clean.
You know?
Absolutely.
Like,
I wouldn't even have to live in the Australian desert to want that.
but yeah, you know, so I think, yeah, there's a lot of Irish Australians around. I'm one of them, I guess.
Yeah,
Hi.
yeah, me too. By marriage.
Yeah, you are.
No, I couldn't agree more, and by that I mean I'm interested to read about this. I don't think there was anything to agree with really, other than like there's a lot of Irish people.
Other than like,
here,
yeah, there's a lot of Irish people, and also Ned Kelly, super interesting. Clive, you're absolutely right.
And like,
I would love to.
Like how much there's apparently a series of letters he wrote that are quite important in the story of Ned Kelly that I really want to read. People say that there are interesting political ideas in those letters.
Yes, Ned.
And the first ever narrative feature film is about Ned Kelly.
Seriously?
Yeah, according to UNESCO, the world's first full-length narrative feature film, that's the official thing, is the story of the Kelly gang.
Damn.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's
Cinema icon.
Directed by Charles Tate. I don't really...
No relation to Andrew.
I don't think so. No, Tate with an I, but I wonder if he's related to Sean Tate, the cricketer, the wild thing, Sean Tate. And only 17 minutes of the film survive, but let's have a look at the Ned Kelly movie one day and what's 17 minutes of it. But that's Ned Kelly. We'll certainly like have to look into a lot to covered that story in any sense. I mean, I don't know how much we could really cover the Ned Kelly story. I think what Clive Farmer said about covering it from a left perspective, or even just how he's perceived today, you know, that's probably what we could say the most about. It is interesting that there are people who consider themselves on the far left and people who consider themselves on the far right that can get different things from Ned Kelly. I mean, that's what makes him most folklorish, I think.
Yeah, because I think he there's a lot of elements of his story that speak to the anti-authoritarianism of the Australian mentality.
Yeah.
It just kind of depends on how you choose to interpret that.
Exactly. And I also would like to, you know, and when looking into it, because he's known as one of the last bushrangers in the South. Like, by the time his career's over, it's a proper city down there.
Yeah.
While a lot of the frontier wars are still happening in Queensland. So I would like to look at it in, like, a context of the different frontiers of Australia and what's happening at that time. So, yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Clive Farmer, for the question, for the message. And we... Ooh, where's he gone? Okay, he's somewhere.
I just wanted to check that this was still looking all good.
Yeah, it's still recording.
Okay, yeah.
I can see a red button.
Oh, stunning.
But thank you, Clive Palmer, for the message. We've got one more. This one's from Zoe.
Zoe.
Zoe says, yo, so happy to support you. Love the pod. Thank you, Zoe.
Thanks,
Zoe's
Zoe.
a day one listener. Came over recently. Got to hang out with Archie and Rowan. Zoe asks, I don't know if this will be up your alley, but I've heard some dodgy shit about Socialist Alternative. And, you know, I see them selling their newspapers, and it does seem like they recruit from young uni students. I just don't know how legit all the dodgier stuff I hear is. We chat about it for a while, and Zoe wanted to say, like, well, they're obviously at all of these things, Socialist Alternative, wherever you go in Australia. So, yeah, let's chat about Socialist Alternative for a while. I do have some thoughts, but, Kieran, what as someone who didn't, you know, go to a uni where Socialist Alternative was particularly prominent, so you, what are they? What is your understanding of what Socialist Alternative or SALT are?
So, Socialist Alternative, commonly known as SALT. My understanding of SALT, again, like, I didn't go to a university that had, like, a SALT presence. Very sodium deficient university experience. But my first experiences with SALT was when I actually started working at a university that I didn't attend, but I was working at it, and they did have a SALT presence.
Yeah.
That being the university you attended.
Yes, ANU.
ANU. And at first, it was kind of like I saw them just kind of like at a table, handing out literature, asking people if they were interested in blah, 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 blah. And I thought of them kind of like chuggers, you know, at the mall, where they like stop you and they're like, oh my gosh, have you heard about children that die? And I'm like, I have headphones in, goodbye.
Yeah.
You know, like very, very much like got to avoid eye contact. And if they like look at you, just kind of like just anything to get out of it, just being like, oh, sorry, I'm late, haha. And I didn't really know much about them, I think, until we met Yanni. I think I always just saw them as kind of like a weird inconvenience that I was like, oh God, now I have to run the gauntlet so I can go get a smoothie.
They are standing up for the yeah. So SALT, obviously, so Archie's come to join me now. SALT obviously is an interesting one. It's something we will have to talk about one day. Absolutely.
I think so.
The biggest youth left independent group or something or other. Like, I don't know how to define it, but they're huge and they're very mobilized. They're very visible. Their posters are everywhere. Their people are everywhere in the major cities. They're constantly in some sort of news or another. They're gonna have to be talked about. They're also obviously I have a family member who's part of SALT, so I'd want to be, you know, sure about what we're doing. I'd probably ask you to do the actual research for
Which
it.
I think is reasonable. I can go with it from a more unbiased perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of and Zoe sent through an Instagram account as well, which is like an ex-Socialist Alternative member. And so in terms of a lot of the things that are, I guess, alleged about SALT, broadly a lot of it, I think you could, there's two things. So one is cult-like behavior, and the other is they're Trotskyists. We're going to address both of these, but we're going to address the cult-like behavior thing first. That's a tough thing to talk about.
Right.
When we're talking about such a decentralized kind of operation, and the stakes that they're presenting.
And also, like, how in it you are or not.
Yeah.
Like, I think, you know, there are certainly people that once I started paying attention to Salt, there were people that I saw all the time. Like,
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, the redhead's there. Oh, it's the person who always wears this shirt.
Yeah.
Oh, it's such and such. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I see them at an event, at a protest.
They're very
at
well
a
branded.
representation. Very well branded.
Like, they dress away.
You know, and, like, you can spot them pretty easily. And there were certain people who were always there. And
Yeah.
then there'd be people I'd see who, you know, I might see once and I'll never see again. People who might be more casual or maybe got into it for a bit and then were like, not for me. I think it's the lifers of Salt where probably a lot of this kind of like perhaps reputation and kind of suggestion of cult-like behavior comes in, because I feel like there are some people there that really dedicate themselves to the organization far above anything else in their lives, which I don't know, maybe I just don't have that kind of personality where I can give myself to a cause like that.
I guess-
maybe that's a flaw of mine,
I
but
don't know,
maybe
I
it's
don't
a
think
flaw
it-
of theirs.
No,
I don't know.
I think it's unfair to both of you to view that as a flaw of anyone's, because that is something I could see myself doing if I believed it was going to work,
You know?
I guess. And if that person believes that that's going to work, it doesn't make sense for them to do anything else.
Yeah, just dedicate themselves fully.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, all of my action is about this. And they do, like, they are, I will say this because to their credit, they are always at events, always
Yeah.
kind of like publicizing, you know, different protests and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know how they can reasonably be across all of those issues. But
There's, like, that's one of the things that you hear a lot in criticism, that they just pick up an issue and run with it, and no one knows that it's a socialist alternative issue.
Yeah.
Like, that it's socialist alternative running with the issue, and they monopolize the conversation about it.
Yeah.
And that's, like, I guess, as a listener, if you don't know too much about socialist alternative, it will sound like we're pretty, like, pro them, but I think, like, I find them annoying.
I would not join Socialist Alternative. I
And-
can say that with my full chest.
and-
I'm not interested. I'm sure we agree on a lot of things politically.
Probably most things.
Probably most things, but I don't know. This is all personal. They give me a vibe, and I don't like it. I don't
think-
like the vibe they give off.
I
It
think
makes me
that-
feel weird.
I've often felt, like, upbraided, I guess.
Yeah, like
And-
I'm not, I don't know, like I don't get.
Yeah,
Get
it's just
it the
like
way
I
that
don't
they get it, you know?
and I'm not going to get it.
Yeah.
And that's so I've obviously had also, I guess, professional dealings with Salt, because they've booked event spaces when I was working at the food co-op, and in that context they were great. I want to be, like, real. I really liked speaking to them, I guess, out of character. A lot of them, when, like, it was just like
Whereas
figuring
like just
out
person to person, being
person
like,
to
hey,
person, we're coming in this time. Can we have this thing? How much would this thing cost?
this
That
is a
kind of stuff.
transaction as
Yeah.
opposed to kind of like a cause.
Is it
like-
okay for us to do this? Is it okay for us to do that?
I was like, yeah, easy, done.
And when I had left uni, and, like, at uni, I don't think I had any political awareness. So Salt were kind of part of a milieu of just loud people.
Yeah.
But I mean, I did find them annoying, and there was one guy in Salt who was just absolutely just a creep. Like, aside from his socialism, like, completely unrelated to his socialism, he was just a massive, like, smelly, non-bathing creep type.
And that's not a good look.
Right, and I was, I'm like 17, I'm like 18, I'm like, I don't want to be around
Yeah,
that.
it's just like, oh, this guy's stinky.
And that's not a coherent, like, political critique of Salt.
But it is what you think when you're a teenager.
Yeah, it is what you think when you're a teenager, and it's an interesting one because the idea of Salt monopolizing the room, part of that is because they're so big and active, and that's, I suppose, what this is reflective of a struggle amongst the left, is that everyone kind of knows the go now. We have kind of two options, because everyone's kind of in agreement that, like, God isn't coming to save us.
Wait, what?
Like, everyone who's on the left is kind of like, okay, so we need to, like, do something.
Yeah.
Something must be done. And there are two options, and it's mass movements and terrorism. Right? Like,
Hey, we can all do it together and it'll be pretty chill. Or a couple of us can do it and it's going to be so incredibly unchill.
a couple of us can take an afternoon
You know,
and ruin a
and
bunch of
we'll
people's lives.
Luigi Mangione that shit.
And yeah, it only takes a couple of days to get it started. And obviously, like, terrorism as a word, shitty word for us to be using, because I think the average Australian associates that with Muslims.
Yeah, they're just like, wait, you can't do terrorism.
Terrorism is what Muslims do.
You know?
Or whatever. But it's not like an incorrect word for what that thing is if we're looking at it etymologically. It's like
Yeah.
you're going to scare people to shock them out of the way of things.
Yeah, exactly.
The way I was thinking about it earlier, and it's like, let's say you got a sandcastle, right? And you need there to be a different sandcastle, right? And you got two ways you can do it.
Okay.
So you can just body slam it
Yep.
and then try to fix it up.
Start again.
Yeah. Or you can get like an army of ants to do it like one grain of sand at a time.
Yeah.
And that's impossible. But if you could do it, it'd be so easy to do. It would be so easy for
Yeah.
the ants to do.
Yeah, if you were Ant-Man and you could control mentally.
Yes.
Every
and
ant.
in this, everyone is ants. I want to be very clear. There's no ant queens. I
Okay.
don't
We're
want.
all just regular ants.
Yes, I don't know how.
Okay.
I'm not. There's no ant queen.
Okay.
But yes,
You know,
ants.
and yeah, like it's the difference, I suppose, between. Gosh, I don't know. It's hard to. You know, I think the motto of the left is just like do something.
Yeah, it's just kind
You
of
know,
like we need
and
to,
it's like,
we need to
okay,
do
well, there
something.
are a couple of ways to do something, but it's
Well, we're desperate because, like, well, many of the actions that you can take are kind of gone. So many of the systems that have been built are just massive, and we're talking about dismantling these systems where, like, if for us living in Canberra, like, I mean, not in Canberra, in Brisbane, but like, for instance, when we were living in Canberra, it's even more so. Canberra doesn't produce shit,
yeah,
but is a really wealthy place.
yeah,
Has a lot of food that comes to Canberra. Has all the entertainment that comes to Canberra. Has cars that come to Canberra. Concrete to build things. That doesn't come from Canberra. It comes to Canberra.
yeah,
It's at the top of all of these different systems.
Yeah.
And you can destroy one part of the system, and if it's far enough down the chain, it might break the whole thing. And then you just have a bunch of people who are, well, incapable of living. Like, if Canberra was
Yeah.
cut off from the rest of the world, that'd be kind of curtains pretty quickly.
yeah,
For a lot of people who
Absolutely.
live in Canberra who, like, you know, there's people who figured out, people who've been prepping or whatever, but a lot of people, like, us,
Yeah.
it's kind of be curtains.
Yeah.
You know, and out of, like, the moving everything over gradually, which is what, you know, a mass movement's trying to do, is, like, get all the people together under one tent so we can agree on what exactly we're going to do. Because you can move, if we're moving little grains of sand and we're just crashing into each other, that doesn't help. And that's kind
No,
of
just
what the
making a
left
mess.
is doing now. We're just kind of making a little mess in the corner.
And there's something to be said for right-wing or more conservative politics in that idea of sticking together, even when something is a lot more extreme. Like, you kind of saw it with, you know, the Republican Party with Donald Trump and stuff the first time around. Like,
Well, even now
just,
as well.
Even
Like,
now, just being like, okay, well, if we all just fall in line, then technically we're all still winning because, you know, one of us won.
Yeah.
And it's not the same on the left, I think, because there is so much discussion around, like, it's crazy. It's completely off topic. It's
Go on.
crazy that Republicans as a unit operate more in a communist fashion than leftists do.
The communism for the rich, that's a thing.
You know?
That's a thing. I can't remember who, like, was it? I don't know. And we'll get to the theory side of things. I want to get to the theory side of things for a second as well, because I think that is important. And I
Yeah.
think that's a critique that you can aim at SALT and you can also aim at every other fucking group. But I hate reading. But communism for rich, I think probably Chomsky, but I don't fucking know who was the first. No, I think maybe one of the David Graeber or something. But the idea that the rich have always looked after each other. You can always get like a no interest loan that you don't ever need to pay back
Yeah.
if you're rich. Like, someone will just sort it out for you. We can see it in this country with Archie's playing with his new toy.
Yeah, with the tariffs now,
with the-
you know, the government is just like, hey, we're going to give $1 billion to businesses. They don't have to, there's
Yeah,
no interest
we're
on
gonna
that
give
loan.
$1 billion
And it's like, are you
no
fucking
interest
serious?
loan that will be forgiven.
Are you fucking serious?
To businesses who mainly export.
Yeah, whereas
What?
you and we've got, you know, loans out that we use to get our education. For what purpose? I couldn't
Why?
tell you at
Why'd
this
I
point.
fucking do that?
And yet, here we are, still paying that back.
And that
still
leads-
paying that back. I've paid more now than I would have if I'd been able to pay it up front. You know?
That's an interesting one as well. Because, like, even Hex is like, it looks nice, but it's also something that everything in this society is relative, right? Like, if
Yeah.
everyone is, in our society, if everyone is given the opportunity to have a job, you still need to be the relative best for the job, as it were.
Yeah.
And all of those things you're going to be better at relatively if you're richer. And it doesn't matter how much you give people in the middle, really.
Yeah.
Because the people who have more money get all of those things too and add their money to it.
It's just the cost of opportunity,
It's just
you know?
a fucking cost of opportunity. But that leads into, so university being a waste of time. We can't, I can't talk about, I don't want to spend a single more second of my life talking about some fucking Eastern European dude from like 1905. I'm so tired of this. I don't care about like Trotsky and Gramsci and Kropotnik.
You don't like all of my like daddy Euro thinker.
Daddy Euro thing or Nietzsche or whatever. It's like these dudes have been dead for like 100 years.
My favorite part about all of this is I've never read a single one of these men. Like, I don't know. I couldn't tell you what's a Chomsky. I couldn't tell you what's a Trotsky. I couldn't tell you what's a
I'll tell
a
you one
Nietzsche.
thing.
I couldn't tell you
Noam
what's
Chomsky
a...
is still alive.
Yes, I do know Noam Chomsky is still alive. I couldn't tell you whether God, probably there's someone called Gregor. I don't know.
Oh, there's certainly a Gregor.
You know, I don't know any of these men. I'm so sorry to this man. I do not know you.
Well, it's like you don't need to. He died, like we're talking about people who died like 85 years before we were born.
And also, like,
Can't we come up with a new way to put it? Like,
right? Or also just new systems based on the way that we live, because there's certainly a lot of things for back then that I'm sure was very relevant and very, like, you know, made sense contextually. I don't know if any, but again, I haven't read any of it, but I don't know if any of it is
like,
contextual
why should
for
you
now.
fucking read it? Like, I don't want to know shit about Prussia and what I should think about Prussian workers. I don't give a shit. Like, I was talking to someone about salt. No, I was reading something about salt, and the big argument that was being made is like, oh, salt doesn't support Cuba, right? And okay,
Insane.
I'm like, yeah, sure, insane, absolutely. I'm someone who I find a lot of inspiration from Cuba. I also don't know shit about Cuba, and neither does anyone in salt,
Yeah.
unless you live in Cuba. Like it does, and it doesn't matter how much you've read about Cuba. If you weren't there, especially,
You know?
like salt doesn't support Castro. Okay, it's like salt prefers Trotsky. Who the fuck is Trotsky?
He's a little horse.
Trotsky.
Yeah.
Okay, here's what I understand about Trotsky.
Okay.
So Trotsky is Lenin's friend, but also rival intellectually.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's kind of hot.
Stop.
And Lenin wanted Trotsky to take over the Soviet Union after he died.
Okay.
But Stalin took over, and Trotsky left and wrote a lot about what he would have done instead. I think while living in Mexico. Now,
I would have done it differently.
that sounds very dumb. And I'm sure Trotsky was just like a disagreeable person. I read some of the things he wrote, and I've read some of the things Marx wrote, and I read some of the things all of these dudes write, and I'm like, yeah, sure.
Why not?
Why not? I wasn't there. And like the theories, like, yeah, sure. You're hypothesizing about something. It's wonderful to be able to build belief. And the other thing that I understand, and the criticism of Salt as to like, you know, a big part of why it's a criticism of them that they're Trotskyist or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that Trotskyists believe in biding time until the global revolution instead of actually doing something or something like that.
Right.
They believe that there needs to be like strong socialist parties around the whole globe before you start doing socialism. And that being a critique, I think is really reflective of the fact that there is no People's Party anywhere.
No.
Everything is controlled by 5 or 6 multinationals. Like, it's too late for that.
Yeah.
Like we're so past that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even...
How would one engineer a global revolution at
What
this
are you
point?
fucking talking about? Bro, there's so many languages, but everyone's still buying McDonald's.
You know?
Like, it becomes the longer the longer the state of affairs continues, the more likely that you get to terrorism. You get the people just being like, oh, I'm fed up. Like, you'll get someone's going to crash some planes into towers, or you'll get more like riots is what they'd probably call it as well, where it's just these, there'll be a single event that mobilizes a community. Like, we saw some pretty heated things in the US with, the George Floyd killing or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I don't mean to say like or whatever, but like there was more things that were happening around that time. What happens if like they start firing on protesters? What's the response going to be then? Like the people, like you have no other option but terrorism unless everyone can get together, but no one get together. And the big reason no one on the left can get together is because some of them like Trotsky. I don't give a shit. And like all this is to say, like, I find the people from Socialist Alternative, when advertising, to be really abrasive and really irritating, and not I'm
there's an inflexibility in perspective and an inflexibility in what people perceive to be the right moral correct decision.
Well, there's too
much.
There's too much
black and white, and it's hard to be like, oh, okay, well, what if I disagree with this a little bit? And it's like, then you're a piece of shit. And it's like, oh, what? Oh, my bad.
Yeah, and
my bad.
The things that are being disagreed upon are like completely theoretical things as well.
Yes.
Like it's so like
it's nothing base. Like, I think people should have healthcare. It's like, yeah, absolutely. And it's like, yeah, and I think it should be through this random old ass model. And they're like, that's heinous. You're Hitler.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, my bad.
That's what it fucking sounds like.
Bad.
Like, if you're not a fucking theory person, and I was gonna say like uni student, but you can absolutely just be a worker and read theory. This isn't like an idea that reading is out of the realm of possibility for anyone unless they're not literate or whatever, or that engaging with theory isn't possible for anyone. But what is being suggested is that we just need to wait till everyone gets off their ass and reads these books.
Well, that's not going to happen.
Because the books suck. Every year that passes, they're going to be less scrutable for people. Like, who the fuck?
I also think it's interesting, the distinction with a lot of those movements in talking about workers and labor rights and that kind of thing, and how, like, I get why they call people workers,
yes.
Particularly like that kind of phrasing.
Yeah.
It does feel a lot of the times very othering to me.
Go on.
It feels like you're kind of prescribing a function to these people that, is in reality a function that we all have to kind of do. Like, we all do kind of have to work.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a worker, you're a worker.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, you get to talking about what do you mean by work? What do you mean by worker?
Yeah, and at that point, is it just like, hey, I think people should, and maybe it's because I'm a bit of a softie, but...
No, I'm a softie as well.
It feels very weird, and sometimes it also feels very, I don't know, patronizing.
Yeah.
Like, it's
they're
okay,
very patronizing
it's a way
people.
of, I feel like, maybe distincting a class in a classless ideal, where it's like, okay, so you've got the thinkers and you've got the theories, and then you've got the workers,
Yeah.
And there's an idea that theory is of a higher quality than the work, even though it will say that it's not.
Yeah.
But if the people making the theory and discussing the theory are the ones who make the decisions, and it's not coming from the people who need whatever, then isn't that just a new fucking class structure?
Yeah,
like, it's kind of a joke, and that's how I see it. But
I understand that's actually one of the big criticisms that Trotsky had of Stalin.
Yeah.
But I also understand, and if you want to argue with us, you can subscribe to our fucking Patreon.
Yeah.
Give us $5 and argue with us, or email. Our email will still be open. We just won't guarantee to put you on the show or whatever. You can even like, I guess email us, but also I don't really want to know more about any of these dudes. I don't care about people who have been dead for 100 years. I don't care about people who've been dead for 20.
I only care if you can tell me the wildest thing you know about them, like the craziest shit you know about them.
All right, let me Google.
I only care if you have like a story where it's just like, Trotsky shot himself in an Engadine Macca's or whatever. That's when I care. That's when I'm like, tell me.
Did Trotsky shit himself? All right, we're Googling, did Trotsky shit himself, everyone. Okay, so we've got Reddit. We've got 70 years after the assassination of Trotsky. Yet another attempt. The time Trotsky got owned by a door. The solutions of Bukharin. See, now we need to know about Bukharin as well. We're trying to learn about Trotsky, and now we're talking about Bukharin. Yeah, here's a picture of Leon Trotsky.
He's got such little glasses.
Yeah, I know. Those are tiny.
I love his little glasses. You know what's really funny? I feel like when my facial hair comes in, I'm gonna look a lot like Trotsky.
You're gonna look a lot like your mustache already is kind of Trotsky-ish.
And I've already got the little flavor saver going, like under the lip.
Okay, here you go, everyone. Forget Trotsky. Listen to Kieran.
Yeah, hey.
That's what he looked like when he was older.
Oh shit.
He looks like fucking Cornel West.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not looking good for me.
Yeah, Kieran's the political theorist that I listen to, but and again, none of that's to say like you can't get things from theory personally. I just think it's theory and religion are the same thing.
It's just a new
the
Bible.
Same thing.
It is.
New Bible because of how hypothetical. Even though it is talking about material things and Marx's thing is talking about a specific society where a specific thing happened, they're talking about like random hypotheticals that some motherfuckers imagined up about the workers and the like that has obviously changed because we're talking about 100 years ago. Like, what are you going to do?
You know
Go
what
up to Marx, explain to Marx that there's like DoorDash for porn.
You know?
Yeah.
It's giving fucking L. Ron Hubbard. Like, what starts out as, like, you know, some fun fantasy, I made this up kind of thing, and now it's like a global religion full of insane people.
Yeah,
like,
and a chunk of those people have done cool things.
You know?
And they did them all in their own context, in their own places. And you know who wasn't there for any of them? Carl and Leon and Joseph and Mikhail and fucking Vladimir and fucking Ilyich and whoever. They're all fucking Eastern European dudes. I'll tell you, Fanon's cool. Read some Fanon. No, but actually don't read any books. It's a waste of your time. But if you do, don't talk about them to people when you're trying to recruit them to your course.
Yeah, so, and with that in mind, I do want to apologise to everyone for reading Untamed and Unashamed, the Pauline Hanson autobiography, while trying to recruit you to our cause. I shouldn't be reading to you, I'm sorry.
That's crazy that you did that. That's crazy that you did that we read about. But, you know, Pauline Hanson and Malcolm X probably...
I'm sorry, I...
have some things they'd agree upon.
Do you think?
In that they probably wouldn't want to speak to each other.
Okay, vibe.
But I was thinking about Malcolm X when I was thinking about this whole, like, okay, we got terrorism, or we got... Because that's, you know, terrorism or mass movements, and that's another way of putting the idea that Malcolm X famously put in the Ballot or a Bullet speech, and that's a speech that I really enjoy. But I'm not going to use Malcolm X to recruit you to my political movement. But, you know, it just came to mind because there's an easy way to also look at the left and be like, oh, we have a lack of political imagination. And I think that's weak to say that. It's like, oh, no one's thought hard enough about it. I think it's just, you know, everything has been figured out. It's just, look at how big the thing is. Look at how fucking big the thing is. What are you going to do? You're going to have to do terrorism.
Yeah, it's like...
And no one wants to do terrorism. No one, I don't want to make someone bleed for no reason.
You know, and I think a lot of it also comes down to, like, the personal sacrifice involved. Given that this thing is so big, it does kind of feel like you're just throwing yourself into a meat grinder. Like, this is, you know, frontline troops where it's like, oh, we're all going to get gunned down. Like, we're all going to get gunned down. And maybe that will make a difference in kind of a butterfly effect sort of way.
Yeah.
But there's no action that one singular person can take in this world that would make any sort of actual change, if not built upon the acts of millions of other individual people.
Yep.
You know?
And, like even the thing that people might say is like, oh, what if you assassinate this or that president? Well...
So what?
Unless you're making the knife yourself... and getting up to the president yourself, it's like you're using things that other people made. You're grabbing ideas that you're doing that because of the other people that the president represents.
You're not the first person to assassinate a president.
You're also
Don't get a big head.
Like, be original.
Come on.
Also,
people have already thought about that.
It's been a while since this. Like, so who was was Shinzo Abe the last successful presidential assassination, or was Haiti's guy more recent?
Oh shit.
Anyway, the thing is, right? Like, it doesn't matter because none of us are in early 1900s Europe. And I want to talk about a friend I had who was a Marxist luxury real estate, Bitcoin evangelist, Putin supporting drug launderer. agent.
Oh, that's nice.
Do you remember him?
No.
Okay, well, I knew him for a while. We hung out a few times and like smoked weed together. He was interesting, and he kept telling me to read Marx. And he was like, "You got to read Capital."
Oh, is this the guy that also was just like, "Hey, do you want some Ritalin?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm okay." And he's like, "You sure you don't want Ritalin?" And I'm like, "No, I'm good."
that was the Mystic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yep,
that was
yep,
the
yep.
Mystic. We've
known some people.
We've known some people, but the real estate agent. So I'm in his house, and he like is a guy who manages luxury real estate listings, and I know him because we have the same supplier of some things, and we get along because we're two people there at the place where you get the things that are nerdy-ish. We both read. And so we're hanging out, and look, lovely guy. I gotta say, like, really nice guy. I imagine he's good at real estate. And he was like, "Yeah, here, look, this book," and he's holding like Capital or whatever. And he's like, "This book explains everything. It lays out everything in society, and you're gonna understand it." And I'm like, "So if he solved everything, surely he's identified that you should kill yourself." As a luxury real estate agent.
It's like,
right?
no.
Like, what bigger contribution could you make if Marx has identified everything and you're a luxury real estate agent and you're not retiring? Why did you read Marx? It doesn't mean anything that you're a Marxist.
No.
Unless you retire or kill yourself.
You know?
But that's what's left. It's like, yeah, which of these dudes do you fuck with? And that just reflects like who your mates were at 18 in many ways.
Yeah.
And a lot of these problems are just what different words mean, because we don't get to really be Marxists or be socialists or be Maoists in a existing practical way.
No.
And so you're then trying to decide like what who's the main dude, and B, what is the main dude's main thing, and C, how do we need to implement that main dude's main thing based on the main dude? Like,
It just feels like political Harry Potter houses.
It does. It really kind of does.
It's like, oh my god, actually, I'm a Maoist, so
Maoists
I don't hang out
they're
with
the biggest fucking pick-me's.
Leninists or whatever.
Well, they shouldn't. They're the biggest fucking pick-me's in the world. Maoists are crazy. No, I don't know what that means.
Neither do I.
And the thing is, people just have always said things about people, and they'll be like, this person's actually this other person. They'll be like, yeah, fucking Tom. Tom's actually a Trotskyist, and as a Maoist, I can't fuck with that. It's like, what are you talking about?
It's just like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have any context.
You're not
for
Chinese.
This. Like, do we like Tom? Like, what did he do?
What has Tom done? What won't Tom do?
What's a Trotsky? And like,
where's the little horse?
Is that where's the little horse? What did he do to the horse?
What did you do to the horse? So I think that about covers it, in that, like, we will do an episode about salt one day, but it's
going to involve learning things.
It's going to involve learning things, and
that
that
I'm
sucks.
resistant to learning.
And
I don't like learning theory.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth it to learn theory. I've thought that about school in general, like, just constructivistly speaking, theory is a waste of your time completely. Unless you're listening to it while you're doing something. Anyway, so that's our mailbag. If you'd like to, that'll be the end of the free episode. But there is a Patreon episode dropping where we are going to talk about how these fucking Italians are taking over this country.
Oh my god! Over cannoli, no less.
Over cannoli. We're going to talk about the election a little bit. We're not really going to cover the election on this show. I don't think it's not. Like,
I feel like we'll certainly be looking at the highlights, because it's going to be what's going on.
Yeah, we'll talk about it the day after and such. But, our episodes are slightly too richly produced for the really compressed Australian election media cycle that just keeps going. Like, I think we've forgotten about Peter Dutton, like, knocking a dude's head off. Kicking a dude's head into another dude. And both of them died.
I think we've already forgotten about how, like, Peter Dutton, like, just, like, exploded that man's head or whatever.
Yeah, I think we've already forgotten about how Peter Dutton
the brains.
Ate that guy's brains, and while he was eating it, he said, the real problem about this is that it didn't have enough salt in it. So we'll see you over on the Patreon feed, and if not, we will see you on Wednesday with part 2 of our chiropractic series. Any parting thoughts, Karen?
Not really. Just like, hey, thanks for writing in.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about a lot of these ideas for episodes. I think
They'll be good
I'm
ones.
very keen. Stay tuned for whatever I write, whenever I write it, because I'm much less productive than Yanni.
Kieran has an actual job.
No.
And if you want to help me have an actual job, sign up to our Patreon at patreon.com/shouldn'tacome. That's SHOULDNTACOME. You can also follow us on Instagram at Shouldn'tacome. It's spelled the same way as the Patreon. And you can email us. And
I was just going to say, and you can email us.
you can email us at shouldn'tacome@gmail.com. Again, that's SHOULDNTACOME. None of those have the apostrophe in it, so don't worry about where the apostrophe
You don't have to
goes.
worry about grammar. Just get the letters in.
And we'll see you on the Patreon if you're going to be joining us there. Bye.
Bye.